Okay, so today I'm going to do some jelly plate printing, which is so much fun and so easy and so quick and spontaneous and instantaneous. That's probably why I love it so much, because I get an effect straight away. This is the jelly plate that I'm using. There are quite a few different ones on the market. No big deal, doesn't really matter which one you use. If you haven't used a jelly plate before, have a little look at what's available and then decide for yourself. It's like this, pretty much like jelly. I think you can actually make them yourself, but I wouldn't. I buy the commercial grade ones because it just comes in a packet and then we're ready to go. So what you really need to do is make sure you have a heap of stuff set up before you even start. So you need a brayer for rolling on paint, and you don't have to have a second one for rolling your paper on there, but you can if you want to. I do because I've got one in the studio. You want paint, you want baby wipes, paper towel, because it's quite messy, and you want a selection of papers. Make sure you give yourself a lot of space because it creates a lot of prints fast, and you want to be able to lay them out to dry. You can just use normal paper, copy, print paper from the printer, which is really cheap and easy, and there's stacks of it if you buy it in reams. It works really well. But if you want to get more creative, I like to use different, you can use vintage papers from music scores, which I love using. I also use scraps of paper that I've got from some other crazy idea that I must have had for something at the time. So I will go through all my drawers and pull out what I've got laying around that I might have started a different project with. That's fabulous. Rice papers, I'm going to try that. This is actually a paper my son sent me from China. I think it's a watercolor paper. It's pretty thin, not sure how it's going to go, but I'm really keen to give it a try. This is some thicker watercolor paper, and it's old, and I don't know why it's yellow, but I'm going to use it. And then, of course, there's more scrap paper that's laying in the studio. That'd make a great second print. Paper towels, which I've used before, are fabulous for mopping up excess, but also printing on. So you want to allow yourself to be really experimental with the process. I'm also going to use some magazine pages and a few other interesting ways to use your jelly plate print and see what we can create. The purpose is to create monoprints, so it's one print off the plate, but also to have fun, to experiment, to allow yourself to create, and to then have this heap of collage resources that you can use then in the next project. It's a really good way to get into the studio and to create without the stress and pressure of having to produce something perfect at the end. So we're going to have a lot of fun. It could get quite hectic because I tend to bounce from one idea to the next. I allow the ideas just to come flooding, and then I roll with what I like and I create more of it, or I don't worry about things that don't work, because that really is all part of the creative process. I'm just going to start creating pages. I'm going to make some background pages first, because that's the most simplest and easiest way to begin. And then I might use some stencils from there. Basically, you just put a bit of paint on your jelly plate. Ain't rocket science, people. Oh man, seriously. As I said, it can get a little messy, especially when I'm doing it, because I tend to be a little more is more. So I'm going to start with the basic. Let's create a background. And so you just put your paint on your jelly plate, put on paper, and take a print. This is the most basic first step. Nobody can stuff that up. Anybody can do this, and it will actually just get you going. So there is a print from just 2 colors on the jelly plate. So from there, you can let that dry and reuse that page to put other prints on it, and take prints from stencils. There's so many things you can do with this particular technique of the jelly plate. It really is endless, and you're only limited by your imagination. As you can see, I've just got a whole heap of paints laying around on my table. At the moment, I'm just doing some nice warm colors. Colors don't really matter too much. You're not, don't need to stress out. Just start with your favorite colors and see how you go. I'm feeling like we need a little bit of bling, baby. Let's get a bit of gold going on. Ooh. Yes. So I'll probably bring these particular background sheets back later once they've dried and add a second layer of print onto it with something else. So that's the first print off it. And then what you can do is take a second print. See how there's still quite a bit of paint left on there? So you want to grab a second print off that. I might try this paper and see what it does. It's kind of nice and absorbent. See how that's picking up then a lot more color off the plate. So that makes great backgrounds, fabulous backgrounds. You can just clean up the jelly plate with a baby wipe so that you can then keep moving along. I'm not too worried about how clean the plate is because I'm going to use a whole heap of similar kind of tones of colors just because it just makes it easier to move fast. I like to move fast. That's the thing, not every pull that you do is going to be successful. It's not always going to work out, but you've got to let go of that performance mentality and stressing out that if something doesn't go well, you're a failure. Because, that's absolute garbage. You just got to keep trying new ideas all the time. And some of them work and some of them don't. And that's actually the same for everybody. Sucking up the plate nicely. See, that's a really nice texture on there. Okay, so I think I might switch it up now and do some stencils. Okay, so you've got some printed backgrounds. 2 colors, 1 color, multiple colors. So now what you want to do is use a stencil over the top of these to create even more elaborate designs. So I'm using this stencil. This is a Stencil Girl stencil. And I think over this color, some bronze would look really nice. This is just a very affordable paint from Warehouse Stationery. It's a bronze. Just gonna see what that texture and pattern looks straight over the top, just with a bronze. Oops, stencil on. And I'm putting that color on. see how that looks. Don't stress too much about crinkles. That looks pretty nice. That's a really nice print. So then take the stencil off and then use that paint on this background. That, ta-da, looks beautiful. Oops, it's a bit running over the side. Not to worry. This is called Creating Without Fear. I'm going to use a piece of the paper that I put a background on before. See this one? Put a background of that on it before. Let's see what this stencil looks like as a second print. See how carefully I lined it up? Nah, create without fear, people. Just give it a crack. If it doesn't work, it doesn't matter. It's only collage paper. Ooh, that's nice. Yes! So that's the second print with the stencil over the first print that I showed you before. Basic one, make a background. Second step, put a stencil. Okay? As you can see, the one stencil creates an abundance of collage papers. Absolutely beautiful. You really are limitless in what you can create with the jelly plate, some paper, some paint, some stencils, and a little bit of imagination. So all of these in all the various tints and tones and colors and variations were created with the same one stencil design. And it was from these papers that I put into the collage of the art journal page. So really, you need one stencil, people. One stencil and you have an abundance of beautiful papers. I really hope you enjoyed this demo, and don't forget to show me what you make. If you have any questions or any problems, just email me or else find me in my studio in the Creative Adventures Facebook page.